Right. This is the July 2022 leadership debate on BBC News. We have uh leader, the Prime Minister and the leader of the Conservative Party, Albert V. Grantham. Say hi.
Hello.
We've then got the leader of the Cooperative Party, I think.
Greetings.
We got to the
Oh, okay, right. And the
Can you
leader of the
just
Labour
shut up?
and the leader of the Labour Party
hello.
and the Lib Dems.
Alright.
Right. So first question is, what are your plans for if 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 you're in government, what are your general plans and your main ones? We're gonna start with the Lib Dems.
Lovely. So as you'll be aware, our big policies are based around reform. Specifically, one of our big policies that you'll have seen has been very, very large in the news is our proposed reforms of the Metropolitan Police Service, which would see the removal of the commissioner, a new commissioner team put in place, the reopening of CID, and basically with that it will tie into the reforms of the justice sector. So using CID to prosecute criminals alongside the CPS, and that kind of all falls into one spot. Our plans for the Foreign Office, again, very ambitious, but will be a case of putting us right back in that international stage, which will see a deployment of the British Armed Forces overseas on both peacekeeping and training missions with allies that we develop over the course of the term.
Okay, now on to the Labour Party. This is next in line.
So our general basis of plans are to, well, one of our key ones is to try and boost the development of the Royal Navy. We understand that that's a large development issue, and I don't think I've made it loud enough. And also try and open a Royal Air Force, but we understand sometimes things like the DAA will be in the way. And our Justice Secretary, our Shadow Justice Secretary, wants to, along with the rest of the party, increase heavier fines and sentence time to deter petty or large criminal offences from happening. It's more of a general basis plan. For DCMS, we want to establish Ofcom to regulate media companies more, make sure that if they're in, say, news channel but they're being biased, then they're not allowed to be there following the rules, and making sure that we can possibly even deregister inactive ones that are still on the Trello, things like that. Foreign Office, we'd like to, for now we'd like to stay in the UN and see if we can get it revived from the recent announcements, but if that doesn't work, then leave it, go into a new one and start building up, say a new NATO and be one of the heads of it. It's a general basis, and then some reform in the MET LFB, but from that's our general basis plan.
And now on to the leader of the Cooperative Party.
All right, our first plans to deal with the Our first plans is to reopen the police force, since of course recently it was closed due to amount of inactivity caused by the high command. And our plan to relaunch it is to merge with the PADP and have daily meetings with high command to which we consider as activities. This ensures the government knows what the police force is doing, and the police force knows what to do. And then our plan for London is to have companies such as Subway and other companies to provide them with opportunities in London with more activities and profits for said company within London. And then our plans for foreign affairs is for us to launch a plan to move to a more active and bigger United Nation, one that has connections. After seeing the recent Japanese-Danish war incident, it has left us questioning whether or not the United Nation that had many officials that were from the UK was a good idea, since it could encourage corruption and biasness. And then our plan for defense is to reorganize the British Armed Forces, since it's our armed forces. Our plan is to divert the focus to the British Army, since they're important in internal and external security, and in the United Kingdom, Special Force has more members than our armed forces combined, which is very ridiculous. And there's a chance we'll mostly try to balance the British Armed Forces and our Special Force, so it could be even, so it doesn't look like our entire army is just a Special Forces. And then our plan for the justice. We understand that the bar exam is genuinely difficult and may be frustrating for members of the public who have already had multiple attempts on it. We plan to launch a law course that citizens aspiring to be barristers that could enroll within the Justice Department, working together with the Educational Department. A law course will happen, and we'll have courses to teach whoever wants to be a part of the Justice Department. We'll teach them the basics on how to answer certain questions, and this will allow to some people to actually make it into the Justice Department instead of like having like a very low chance of passing. And then our plans in the Parliament is to question the opposition benches, to clarify any misconceptions for public, and to ensure that whatever is in the government, even if ourselves know what they are doing, we will not keep quiet. They promise to keep making sure that whatever goes in Parliament is based on respect and professionalism. We will launch weekly bills that will be based on our solution to correct our current issues in our country. These bills will be settled by the newly established internal committee, which we have made within our party. Then we would send bills to the Parliament team to approve before being released.
Okay. We'll now be moving on to the Conservative Party.
Thank you, and I apologise for the public at home if you fell asleep during that. Now listen, the Conservatives promise a key thing this election, and we promise this if we get a third term in government, and that is stability. This Conservative government has continued for the past 2 months to be a stable government. We have not been couped, and I know there are some people on this stage that are mates with people that advocate for coups, but this party and this government has not been couped, and it has remained in office. I admit there are some things that this party has not got right, and these 2 months, have not been smooth sailings all the time. However, I think the public cannot realise, seeing the state of the nation, that this party and this government has done quite well with government at this moment in time. And, there are some things, though, that we do need to, work on, and that one thing is the British Armed Forces. With the appointment of the new CDS and Chief of General Staff, we are working with the Defence Council to help reform the British Armed Forces. That is something that we will look into next term. Another thing that we're planning to do during next term is to make Parliament work for you. So we will be working with the Lords to make the system of passing bills easier, because this term, the reason why government progress has been slow in some areas is because we haven't been able to get our legislation passed that we want to pass, because certain members of the Lords and certain, again, friends of people on this stage tonight have been shooting down bills that have a mandate from our manifestos last time to be passed, and that is something that I don't find acceptable, and that is something that we will definitely work on during the next term. Progress within the Home Office, we plan to reopen CID, we plan to reopen the Border Force, work with LFB, work with all the agencies, that have become more active during these 2 months. And I will put all my effort into making sure that this United Kingdom... Hello, mate. I'll put all my effort in ensuring that this United Kingdom continues its progress and this Conservative government is ready to work for you for another term. Thank you.
No, I don't think it will. We cut ties. We have released a statement explaining that it's not something we condone.
Oh,
And
sorry,
to be honest,
sorry. I need to. My mic was muted. Sorry. Do you think your relations with the former Chief of Defence Staff will affect your general election results?
no, let's say no, I don't. We cut ties pretty quickly. We don't condone that sort of behaviour. We've made statements on it. And I mean, our party remains stable. Our supporters remain supporting us. And yeah, let's say, I mean, there's parties on this stage that are about as stable as a paedophile outside of a nursery. So that says enough.
Okay. Now the Labour Party. You've consistently had mediocre election results. Your cabinet list, you released, was nothing but devastating for your chances of getting a majority in Parliament. Do you think you are going to even achieve official opposition this election?
We're confident that we will achieve official opposition. The mediocre election results, they've passed now. Under the leadership of former leader Walkman, we've gone from 0 seats to 12, and now under my leadership I hope to just keep going with that. And also that spreadsheet about the party shadow cabinet, that was obviously a mistake. We're now going to release a new one when it's ready, filled, and we know what to do. So, no mistakes can be made. And we've also made sure to get rid of any mediocre, per se, members left. I'm pretty sure we know who I'm talking about.
Okay, and for the Cooperative Party, you merged out of a former party, and the previous Cooperative Party were caught in a lot of controversies throughout their leadership. The former image of the previous Cooperative Party. I think it may affect your election results, and what do you actually stand for? Because the previous one didn't actually stand for cooperativism. However, just a centre-right, centrist sort of view.
Well, it mostly depends, cause we used to be the Democratic Unionist Party, which we were like the lowest party out of course, Labor and Conservatives. But we ensure that we'll mostly bring more reforms and perhaps more. We plan to fix Parliament and other stuff within our party. But the massive amount of controversy about of course, the previous party about changing our recent party to their party mostly depends. We hope that this election will mostly get support from our new voters and not get massive criticisms about the previous old cooperative party. So yeah.
Okay, and Albert, the leader of the Conservative Party and current Prime Minister. The Conservative Party's been in power for I think it's 3-4 terms now. How long do you think you can keep off this continuous streak and still deliver new plans and stuff and keep the government running and up to date?
Oh, I believe that this Conservative government has unfinished business in sectors, and we, like I said, I keep saying it, but stability is important, and our cabinet ministers are experienced. They've led their departments now for weeks now. They know how to run this government, and they will ensure that the departments keep working as they always do. But like I've mentioned, we want to reintroduce the border force, reopen CID. We want to, do the parliamentary committees that we've been promising, and that the game is ready. It's oven ready, as a certain politician would say in real life, and ready to go. We want to continue with our negotiations with the Lords to ensure that bills are passed. So I believe that, as long as the public still want us, we will continue and we will serve in government.
Now, I'm going to ask each and every single one of you of what your party ideologically stands for. Start with the Lib Dems. Jason.
Ah, yeah, sorry, I didn't actually realise. I didn't realise my microphone was muted there. I mean, we stand exactly where Lib Dems stand in real life. We're a liberal party, a social democratic party, and yeah, that's where we stand. So.
And Labour.
We're democratic socialists, like centre left, and TLDR, it's more socialist, but allowing private businesses to also thrive along national ones.
Okay. And then now to the Cooperative Party.
All right. Our is to fix the government, since of course Parliament, our armed forces, and our police force is currently not doing the best, as the police force closed, Parliament is no Wi-Fi, and our British armed forces is currently not doing so well. So we plan on fixing them and hopefully bring more stability to, of course, into both of the branch department.
Now Albert.
Yeah, I'd like to say that my party's a big tent. We like to welcome a lot of people from various backgrounds in ZUK, but what we all agree on is that we want to, get things done for this country, and we want this country to have the best future.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but only the Conservatives and Labour currently have manifestos.
Incorrect.
Okay, the Lib Dems do. I can't find that. We'll just
Crap ones don't count.
Okay. Right. The current economy. It's not doing too well, to be honest. We've got hyperinflation. We've also got Lego hyperinflation. The banking sector sort of died. We also have businesses are also like really struggling to do anything in London. What are you going to do to try and improve the ease to start a business in ZUK? Start with the Conservatives this time. Switch it up a bit.
Oh, I like to see you spicing up a bit. Well, I feel like the main thing, you were talking about companies. I feel like the main thing when it comes to companies is giving people, the incentive to actually start one. There's no point the government giving all these opportunities to start up companies and having companies house open if people don't want to start up companies. So we're gonna find new methods to allow people and make people feel like they want to run a business in ZUK, because you might want to register one, but if you're given nothing, then what's the point starting one? So yeah, I feel like that's something that we need to work on, and I don't know what you're waffling on about hyperinflation, because I don't really think ZUK is much of a no. I don't think ZUK is much of a working economy apart from when people rob banks. So I don't think you can say that the economy is going downhill in that respect.
Okay, move it to. Can you stop touching the camera, please? Thank you. We'll move to co-op. Oh, you've messed up the cameras.
I think our first plan is to at least fix the national bank, as of course, due to the massive hyperinflation, business not doing well. We should mostly at least fix our bank first, so we can at least at least give at least a little aid to our businesses. as like businesses in London are important, so you can like at least get a job and get in-game currency.
We'll move on to the Labour Party.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
What's Labour going to do to what's Labour going to do to support businesses on London?
Well, right now we just have to continue with how the company's house is going, maybe hire some more staff, and maybe do some campaigns to encourage business registration. But I think right now we can't really encourage business directly on London until version 2, and everyone's sick of hearing version 2. But that's really what we need to get this going for some things.
Now, just to add one more thing onto Labour. Are you going to be introducing tax?
No, but with the announcement from MJ Levy where he said, where he stated that, would you like me to work on a tax system and things like that. If that was introduced, we'd probably have business fairs to keep them in check, but also I think it'd help activity in the business sector if it was introduced, because then businesses would have to keep themselves on top of it so that they can get money, pay it in game, and then we can get rid of inactive ones,
Okay, moving on to the Liberal Democrats.
Yeah, first of all, I don't think that's a fair question for the Labour Party, considering that they probably don't do that level of economics until they're a little bit older. Secondly, I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, let's be honest. There's no point bullshitting and lying to the public about the private sector at the moment. It's a mess, and London V1 doesn't offer really anything in the way forward for a private business to fully operate in London. And I mean, as a former dev, and just from what we've heard from the devs, is very simple that there will not be that support in London V1, but there will be the support in London V2. So I think it's pretty straightforward. You need to accept that, you need to work forward, and you need to understand that businesses, I mean, as much as there will be support for you to form your business, the actual operation and running of a business, team-wise and things like that in London, will not happen until London V2. However, the Lib Dems do have plans to help support and get things up and running, because we know that that's going to heavily rely on developer support and getting you a building and all that stuff. So yes, with the new currency system that's coming into play, obviously each and every job will have to be assessed for specific pay grades, because it won't be able to be set in game. It will be a developer thing. So we will be working hard behind the scenes to ensure that for different sectors and different areas, we are working with business owners to ensure that the pay grades and the income is representative of the job that you will be doing.
Okay, now, I really messed up those cameras. Right, sorry about this. Right, going to move on to more, going to allow you lot to ask a question to one party each. We'll start off with, the Conservatives again.
Well, I don't really have a question to any of them, to be fair. I feel like, if they want to ask anything else. Although I do have a question for the Labour leader. It's a bit of a funny one, but why is his mic so quiet?
Well, you see, it was 50% off, so probably broken.
Fair enough.
Right, now, Co-op?
I don't have much questions either. Though the taxing on labor is not something I could agree with.
Okay, that wasn't really a question, but right. Waja Baja?
Yeah, I have no idea what you meant.
No, a question for somebody, not.
Oh yeah, I don't really have a question, sorry.
Right, Lib Dems.
Yeah, can I have everyone else's questions, seeing as nobody else had some?
Go ahead.
Lovely. First off, for the Cooperative Party, who are you guys?
We okay, so we're basically used to be the Democratic Unionist Party, but we changed to the Cooperative, so we can so we don't be so we don't get to be deregistered just like the United Kingdom Independence Party with the lowest amount of members and not coming to Parliament and stuff.
Alright, okay, so it was just a name change. Secondly, for the Labour Party, I mean, Labour were quite big in the political feed and trying to knock the Liberal Democrats Party, and I mean, you know what? Fair enough. It's a campaign time. But I would love to know, for all the absolute smack and shit talk that they had, why is your manifesto just basically a carbon copy of our manifesto with a couple of wording changes?
What party is that to?
It's me.
Alright.
The Labour Party.
I don't believe it's an exact copy of our manifesto. Everyone needs to have basic policies, they'll always be similar. But Labour, in all honesty, we couldn't care enough to copy a terrible manifesto like the Liberal Democrats.
Oh, Jason, I wouldn't take that.
I mean, I think it's interesting because I mean, if you go have a look at the Labour manifesto and you look at the Liberal Democrats manifesto that was released first, let's mind that we have had a manifesto for our entire campaign, whereas the Labour Party have had theirs for a total of a day. I mean, a lot of what they're proposing, a lot of what they're bringing to the table is stuff that we either have in our manifesto or we have spoken at one of our campaign events. It's been interesting because Labour just seem to talk a lot of shit, but actually have no action to put anything in place. I mean, we've seen the Conservatives. I mean, I think the Conservatives have been a pretty strong opposition against us, and I look forward to going against them in the term. However, I mean, the Labour Party have just been present and shit talking, but actually have nothing that they've managed to back up. And we look at the Labour Party over the course of the term. I mean, Labour members have been removed from the Commons. Labour members, they don't know how to behave in Parliament. They are only really good for shit talking and political feeds. So I really fail to see how the Labour Party are going to benefit the country. But I'd also really love them to explain that our manifesto was apparently to them shit. However, their manifesto has basically been a carbon copy of all of our promises.
Okay. Right. We'll move on. So, what's the general plans for defense with all of the parties, considering that's like the second most active group department, along with the Metropolitan Police? I'll start with the Lib Dems.
Yeah, I mean, defence is extremely important, and I mean, you'll have seen, especially over the past month, the defence sector has just been a mess. With the armed forces the British Army being moved to the Royal Navy, and then being moved back to the British Army, and I think everyone's a bit confused. Nobody's quite sure what's going on. The new CGS who's been appointed was removed from his regiment command role previously for abusing members of his regiment, and in fact there was a lot of accusations of bullying that was going on. The armed forces been very interested in that the Conservatives have backed a Chief of General Staff who has a history of such. But yeah, I mean the Lib Dems, our plans would be a case of, I mean, we're going to have to work with what has been put before us. So it'll be a case of making sure that the rollout of the army again is done smoothly, that they're not opening up 10 regiments and everything failing because there's too many options. You know, we should be primarily focusing on making sure we have, first off, infantry, because they're the backbone of our army. They're the ones that are going to fight if we ever go into a war, because the reality is there's not many naval games, so having a big navy is pretty useless. And yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a case of overseeing that rollout. And like we said, that'll tie in with our foreign policies, which will see British Armed Forces used for peacekeeping and training of allied nations.
Okay, now on to the Labour Party.
I apologise again. Could you repeat the question?
What are Labour's plans for the Ministry of Defence?
Well, we'd like to introduce the Royal Air Force. That is a must-do. We'd like to also make the Marines a more of a commando force, like more experienced. And I have to like agree with some parties sometimes because like natural thing. Expand infantry, of course, because that's a key thing. And while it may sound like copying Lib Dems, it's just basic knowledge. That's about it for now, but we just mainly want to expand the Navy, introduce the Royal Air Force, and make the Marines more of a key part of our army.
Okay, Lib Dems.
What was that? So I can't hear a word he says. He's quiet as fuck.
Yeah, I'm trying all I can.
I think the music's a bit too loud.
Cooperative. I've turned it off.
Alright, so our plans for the defense and the police force is to like for army, I think we should at least transfer some of the special forces personnel to the main army. Consider the fact that they're bigger than our own armed forces ourselves. So yeah, and then the second part is we mostly would close some regiments because there's like a lot of regiments within our army. But if we focus on selective regiments or like a few regiments, then of course they could well defend our infantry. Then we have like an actual prepared army. And then for our police force, as I said in our general plans, we'll replace them with new high command, and we'll merge PADP with the police force, and the high command will do daily meetings. Since of course,
hang on. You are aware that PADP is a department within the Metropolitan Police. The Met Police is consisted of different departments which have different roles. Just because that is.
But yes, but like for now we're just gonna merge with RASP, and then of course perhaps later on if we get more activity, then we'll possibly like officially reopen it since the police force is currently like absolutely dead.
Can I just?
Albert, your turn to speak.
Yeah, thanks. Right. Now, I'm a big believer in not too much government intervention when it comes to military policies. I believe that we should be backing the Defence Council in their decisions. While this government was in office, we had a CDS that would barely communicate with us, really, and one that was legally appointed. So it's not much to talk about that. Our defense secretary, he doesn't, she doesn't shoot up military police officers, so that's a plus. We'll make sure to work with our defense council. I don't know why the Lib Dems are really attacking us on this, because maybe it's because the new CGS or the new CDS aren't a part of the Cross family. I don't know, but I really just want to ensure that the communication with the defense council is good. And we have a good CDS at the moment. It's a good candidate. It was backed overwhelmingly by the Privy Council, and we'll give them any resources needed to ensure that the army can only go up, because it has been in a bit of inactivity. So in a sense, it can only go up, really.
Right. Okay. I'm going to let you freely debate in a bit, but I have got a question from somebody to you, Albert, and it is Job Centre Plus was a big thing in your manifesto and policy last general election. However, nothing has been done, and only 2 advertisements for jobs have been sent. And just see how the government policy hasn't worked.
Is that the question?
Yeah, that's the question.
Okay, well, I accept that in some parts, yes, Job Centre Plus has been quite inactive, but I will personally ensure that it gets back on track. You know, we have a good Chancellor candidate, we have a good Chief Secretary of the Treasury candidate, and those things will be ironed out this term. You know, as you know, our manifesto last term was quite big. We couldn't achieve everything, but the things that we want to achieve this term, like I said, we have unfinished business, but we will ensure that those things are achieved this term.
Um, okay, I'm gonna let you openly debate each other. Now I'm just gonna act as like, I'm just gonna keep you like slightly orderly, to stop you like going at each other's throats.
Mm.
So who's got a thing to debate about? Who wants to
Yeah,
criticize somebody? Right,
I'll
Jason.
go. So I think we should talk about the seeing as I think we've all had a good laugh behind our microphones. I'd love to talk about the cooperative parties saying that the police force is dead. Now, I obviously in my party we believe that it does need reform. However, it's very much not dead. So I'd love the cooperative party to explain to us exactly how our police force is, in their words, dead.
Co-op?
Well, the thing is, I haven't seen much police force recently on, and one of my members of
Really haven't been on London.
my members of candidates become a part of our parliament said that RSSP recently closed down, and that might be an issue considering the fact that it's mostly a part for the police force. And in general, I haven't seen much police force in London except for like I think one or two personnel. And so our plan is possibly to like to reform the police force, get a new high command, to do daily meetings, maybe discuss on what policies or reforms they should do to improve the police force, and yeah.
Anybody, anybody want to reply to that?
Yeah,
Not really, but I don't know what he's on about. I just don't know.
yeah. I want to reply. I really want to try. I'm really trying. I'm really trying to understand your point here. However, like, can I just ask why is RASP of all like RASP, why are they important to the everyday running of our police force? Considering, I mean they're important in the sense that they protect the royals. However, I don't see how in the everyday protection of the general public that they are extremely important as a division.
I would say they're partially important, though not extremely important. Like they mostly, of course, protect like government officials and stuff, but it's mostly just in case that we don't get assassinated, like if it was, like if we're like JFK during the 1960s.
Can I just
That
say that?
terrible.
Can I just point out that RASP hasn't been closed down? I feel like that's quite important to point out that RASP hasn't been closed down. I was literally protected by them like a few days ago. It's definitely not been closed down.
The recruitment is closed down, I assume, because like I haven't been on recently, but
But you said that RASP was closed down when it's a clear lie.
Here, here.
I would just
Anybody have
Don't get caught on track. I don't sound serious, but they're clearly not on top of everything.
wait, who? Sorry.
I don't think the cooperative party are on top of everything.
Co-op, would you like to reply to that, or?
I didn't heard what he said. If someone could please say it to me.
Hang on. I'm just very sorry. With the audio thing, you have to turn it up for Wadger, but then forget to turn it back down. So I'm sorry for your ears on that bit there. Try not to make it happen again. Okay, Co-op.
I'll just not responsible consider the fact that I didn't hear like barely anything from Labor. Just very sorry for that.
I have a different question if we want to move on.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a question to Jason. Hello, mate. Just a quick question about the Treasury. I don't believe your manifesto actually has a Treasury section. I think it's only in. I think it's just vaguely in business. So could you explain why there is no Treasury section to your manifesto?
Yeah, I think it's very plain and simple that the economy doesn't exist. I mean, we have spoken about it in the party. We do have plans. However, with the fact that the economy system in itself is not going to come into play until London V2, which is not going to be until closer to around September time. Which means it's really not going to fall within this term. So there's no point in us making promises about budgets, about economy systems, when the reality of it is, it doesn't exist. There's no point in wasting time and lying to the public about some made-up economy system in your head that doesn't actually exist. So we covered it. We covered off what we believe needs to be covered off, and we did that within our business section of our manifesto.
I agree to an extent on what you're saying about we can't have fake false hope promises, but don't you think it's a good idea to maybe have some ideas in preparation for V2, because it's all well and good to have the. I know you're a dev, you probably know when it's coming out, but it's sometimes good to have these promises just so the British public know, like if they were to if V2 was to come out, like what they are going to be getting if they vote for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've explained it to plenty of people within our rallies, and I mean, I even explained it earlier on that some of the plans that we would have for the economy, especially when it comes to specifically the kind of private sector. So, I mean, yeah, it is good to have those promises and it is good to have them there. However, with so little known about the economy system, even as a former dev, I mean, I didn't work on the economy system, so I can't tell you the ins and outs of how it's going to work. I know the basics as everyone else does. But yeah, like I say, we're not going to make promises about economy and budgeting when the reality is we don't actually know how that's going to work yet. So there's no point in us trying to make it up and potentially falling flat on our face when it comes to telling the public one thing and something being completely different.
Albert, have you got anything more to say?
No, just one last thing about the Treasury. If you were to get government, would you at least put any parts of the Treasury in your King's Speech? Because if it's not going to be in your manifesto, then you might as well just put some things that you hope to achieve at least during the parliamentary term when it comes to actually the Treasury and actually getting stuff in the Treasury. Even if it's just like about the Bank of England or just something simple as that, would you at least put that in your manifesto? No, not manifesto, King's Speech, sorry.
Yeah, of course. It would be, if we became government, it would 100% be in our King's Speech.
Interesting.
I do have a question. This one's to the Labour Party. I would love to know. I mean, the private sector is a private sector for a reason. It is regulated, and it is important that it is regulated. However, when you start trying to push quotas on businesses and force them to remain within certain activity boundaries, you basically start to treat them as if they're a government agency. You mean you're saying that it's obviously to prevent an activity where necessary. However, I feel like when we're looking at it in that grand scheme is like you have absolutely no right as a government to be forcing quotas onto a private business. Private businesses have the right to operate within their own boundaries. That is part of the reason that they are private. So could you explain to us exactly why you're trying to push these quotas onto a private business, and why should a private business meet the quotas of a government when they're not a government agency?
Well, look, I think we're hearing it like a little too much. I apologise for that, but it's keeping activity. But we don't want to enforce too much quota on them because, as you said, they're private. But we just got to keep the businesses on their feet and not let them die out.
But the point of a private business is it's owned privately by a member of the public, So ultimately, are they not responsible for ensuring the activity of their business and that it doesn't die out? That doesn't seem to me like something the government should be attempting to control. Because to me, that just sounds like what you're trying to do as a government is control private businesses.
It's the business owner's job to keep it active, yes, but the government, like, as in, try to encourage them to stay on their feet and risk them with deregistration if they're just not trying whatsoever. But I understand where you're coming from.
So what you're saying is basically that if they don't meet a government quota, that you will remove their business. That's what you're saying.
No, it's just to make sure that they're on their feet. I keep saying this, but we're not going to deregister businesses just for meeting small quotas.
Okay, yeah. See, I'm confused because I'm pretty sure, like, in your first response there, you did just say to me that if a business fell outside of the quota and fell inactive, you would deregister the business. So now you're saying that you won't be doing that, you'll just be meeting with them. So what exactly does the Labour government plan to do here? Do you plan to deregister companies because they're not meeting your quota? Or do you plan to have a meeting with them because they're not meeting your quota? And what exactly happens at that meeting?
Well, our shadow chancellor has a policy of, like, arranging meetings, yes, but when I said deregistered, I meant if they're massively missing targets and there's loads of ways that they could be putting effort into them.
So there will be under let me just clarify, under a Labour government there will be targets and expectations that private businesses will have to hit specific quotas that are set by the government for them to stay registered as a company, is what you're saying.
Not to stay registered, just quotas to try and hit, just to try and hit. But I believe that our shadow chancellor will be able to describe on it more.
Yeah.
I have a new question.
Yes.
So earlier last month, not last month, I believe it was this month, something along those lines, the former Lib Dem Defence Secretary Nathan L. Cross tried to sue the government for denying his right to education because we had an education secretary. But then I was I was very happy to find out that the Lib Dems didn't have a section of education in their manifesto, and I wanted to ask, isn't that a bit hypocritical from your party if one of your party members is going to sue us for denying the right of education and then yet not putting anything about education in the manifesto?
I mean, what our party members do in their spare time and what they feel is important. By the way, I've disconnected from the game and I can't get back in.
Somebody TPM if
But yeah, so I mean, like I look at that. What our apartment? I mean, my name was put down on was put down on that without my consent. So I mean, we had chats about that. However, the reality is, I mean, like education is a basic right. I mean, had education within this party. If we're offering education, I mean, to me, I mean, education is important. I would quite like to see it. I mean, like I say, like it was one of the things that is actually it's still in progress. I haven't added it to the manifesto, and it has simply been the reason that it's not been added has been due to the fact that I have been extremely busy with my personal life and working night shifts and stuff. I mean, it was part of the reason that I was almost late to this. However, yeah, I mean, like we're happy to answer questions regarding education. We will be looking to bring education back to the UK in a sense. Like we're not looking to have your GCSEs in high school and things like that, but we would be looking to introduce things like teaching barristers, like putting forward things for people to like. I mean, like I was proposed a great idea from a member of the public, which I mean I don't think is too far fetched. Where they suggested to me that for people to become business owners within the private sector, that they would take some sort of business course. Which I mean I think is a great idea. Something we could definitely look into doing.
You have Benjamin, who is like one of the biggest education suck-offs I've ever seen in my life. Why couldn't he just add the education part? I respect the fact that you have real life duties and that's important to you, but why couldn't Ben just add that to the manifesto?
Hang on. We have some questions from the public, which I'd like to ask. So can we like wrap this up a bit? I think education is this important. Like, just being honest, I don't think really anybody really.
All right. Yeah.
Uh,
What's the question?
all right. Okay. There's questions from like the public, right? Okay. First one.
I was gonna. Okay. Well,
We've
fair
got
enough.
Lib Dem member. Would the Liberal Democrats like to comment on Lib Dem members being accused of bombing Westminster Bank? WB. I think that's.
You mean Westminster Barracks?
Yeah, that.
Ah, so you know the meaning.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've already commented on it at the exact start of this. I mean, I seen the question in the chat as well. And very simply, we cut ties with Nathan as soon as he did that. It's not okay. We don't support it. We do not condone it in any sense. He has been removed from the party immediately.
If it wasn't reported, but you knew it happened, would you have sacked him? You
Absolutely,
knew it happened, but it wasn't reported. Are you sure?
absolutely sure.
Having an admin
I
in
mean,
the party.
at the end of the day, I don't care about the fact that he's an admin. The reason he was in the party was for his in-depth knowledge of defence policies.
CDS, the BF died. So.
Okay. Can we move to the next question, please?
Yeah, I have a question.
No. Wait. We've got people asking questions. Like public.
All right, carry on.
Right. We'll go to the first one. Right. We've got another one for Jason. Can Jason just answer about the quote-unquote criminals labeled in his cabinet? For example, Nathan, who was so disgraced he left the community, and some guy, Benjamin as well.
Yeah. So first off, I mean, I've just addressed the Nathan issue. I would also like to put out there that the misconception that event was why Nathan left the community. I know the real reasons Nathan left the community. I know the personal reasons behind it. I will not go into the details of it. However, I think the community could maybe not be so toxic about someone who has had a massive issue going on in their personal life, and that has caused them to leave not just this community but multiple communities that they're a part of. In terms of Benjamin, I'm not going to entertain the idea of basically showing a screenshot of him being cuffed and without the full context. We released an entire video that shows the full chain of events. It shows once again what our party has pointed out in our manifesto is the insane amount of abuse that goes on from the Metropolitan Police Service within London. Benjamin did not do anything that was a criminal offence. So we're not going to remove Benjamin from the party. He's not a criminal. And I mean, I do not condone the news company who decided to twist that story and take a specific screenshot, knowing the full story, to try and cause some defamation to our Home Secretary candidate.
Okay, somebody's got a question for the Conservative Party. The question is, last term they released a manifesto. They had one month to fulfill promises they made, and have fulfilled hardly any. For example, they promised parliamentary committees and have never created them. Could they explain why they haven't fulfilled these promises?
Development on the parliamentary committees took a bit of time, but I can confirm now we do have a map for the parliamentary committees, and one of the first things we will do once Parliament is open is get a developer or an admin or someone who has permissions on the Parliament game to add that committee, because because we have now in-depth plans on the committees now that we know we have the map for it.
Okay. And question for Labour. What will Labour do if they manage to get into government? So far, we have only seen their incompetency in the Commons and failure to represent their constituents. I have a.
Here.
He also has another question for Labour. Why did the stream get botted to vote for Labour? It went from having 30 votes with a Conservative majority of 50% to now having 61% Labour majority with 84 votes within the span of 10 minutes.
I'll start off with the botting problem. I don't encourage that at all. I'll find out who did it, because obviously don't support botting votes. They always have to be accurate so that you have a good idea of what's going on. Also, the members that have caused disruption in the Commons, both of them have now been sacked, and old ones are gone now, and so Labour is now, next term, we're going to be fresh in the Commons, you know, representing the people, what legislation, plans, all of it.
Right, I've got a question for Jason. Why did Jason hire Little Dragon despite his record in the Labour Party?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Why did you hire Little Dragon despite his record in the Labour Party?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you asked that question. It's something I actually wanted to address here tonight. So for me, I mean, we were well aware of his history within the Labour Party. However, I mean, there's one thing we offer within the Liberal Democrats, and that is our junior MP programme, which will see basically members be taught exactly how they should be acting within Parliament. They'll be taught parliamentary procedures, standing orders, amongst a bunch of other things. I mean, we believe that people deserve second chances. I mean, Little Dragon came to me. He was honest. I respect honesty. He told me of his history within the Labour Party. He told me exactly what he had done wrong, and I think, I mean, that takes big balls to come and do that. What I think was probably the most interesting part was the campaign that the Labour Party went on to really try and bring him down and ruin his reputation as much as possible. Which, I mean, I think speaks volumes. I mean, like, for me, the way I see that is, I mean, if one person does wrong when they're government, they're going to absolutely destroy the person. They're going to try and ruin their career. And yeah, I mean, it spoke volumes to me. And seeing Labour react the way they did only encouraged me to do right by a person, to bring them back and get them trained how they should be as a politician.
Can I bring up a point?
Go ahead, briefly.
Yeah, cheers. I respect the fact that he's trying to, help MPs, be more respectful within Parliament. However, I believe he's hired Casey Montague into the Lib Dems, one of the biggest trolls I've ever seen in Parliament ever. So I'd just like to hear his thing on that, because trust me, once you get in Parliament, you will see how much of a troll she is in Parliament. And I don't think no MP little guide will fix that.
Yeah, so I mean, Casey, I'm well aware of Casey, and I mean, Casey joined FUK when I was in FUK, and surprisingly, as much as I know of how big a troll Casey can be, Casey decided not to troll within FUK. So I mean, I said it plain and simple with Casey when
Sorry.
I said it plain and simple with her, upon joining the Lib Dems party, is I will give her the second chance that she's wanting. However, as soon as she begins to troll or misbehave or cause any issues, she will be out of the party and done. Like I say, I believe in second chances. I believe that with strict rules and strong leadership, that people respect it more. I mean, to be honest with you, we could talk about trolls all night, but I mean, we've seen exactly how the Labour Party acts within the Commons. So I mean, at the end of the day, for them to try and shun anybody as useless or as a bad MP, I mean, you look at their entire party who can't behave themselves. So I mean, that just speaks volumes to me, that they would go after certain individuals. But I mean, in the case of Casey, I understand your concerns. I understand what you're saying. However, we have had that sit-down discussion. We have set the boundaries and the expectations of what it means to be a member of the Lib Dem Party.
Can I respond to a part of that?
I've got some more. Can we leave this for a bit later, because we've still got questions to go through for the public? I like to do this in more sec.
It is a debate. I think you should let them respond.
Fine. Don't want to turn into a big thing though.
I think I don't know how much I have to stress the fact that we have sacked all the members that have disrupted the Commons. So I'll name them. You know, actually I can't say his name. You know, his nickname is Edward Stones. He had to be let go after he stood up in the Commons and caused disruption. We've let go of all those members, and we're ready for a fresh start next term. So I don't understand why we keep getting told that we are not performing great in the Commons anymore, because that is now in the past.
Yeah, I think it's. I think it's plain and simple. I think poor leadership leads to poor MPs, and your leadership hasn't changed. So you remain with poor leadership, you remain with poor MPs, and you remain with the same misconduct within your party that you've displayed for the entirety of the last term.
Actually,
Right.
the leadership has changed. I am the new leader. I haven't even been in for a while. Are you keeping up to date with this?
Sorry, are you old enough to be leader? I thought you had to be.
Look, I don't think I can be taken seriously with my voice, but at least I know what I'm doing.
You sound a bit like
Ooh.
Angela Rayner if she was like.
Angela
Quite
Rayner.
sketch.
if
You're
she-
supposed to be. You're supposed to.
I
Be
know, I'm
biased
just
here.
saying.
First you don't-
Okay, yeah.
First, you don't let me answer. Let Jason answer the education question. Next, you'd have
So-
to like talk about.
Okay,
Labour.
yeah, okay, right, okay. Right, we have co-op. You've got a question from like somebody. Co-op said that they'll be closing down regiments since there's too many open inside British Army. However, it was just reinstated that it was just reinstated and only 2 regiments are active. Is it possible for the party leader is it possible that the party leader is not following news?
Well, it could depend because like our party leader Skipper is like trying his best to like improve our armed forces and stuff as said in our manifesto. But
You
in our
manifest-
plans, we did discuss that we'll mostly try to reorganize the British Armed Forces to be more active, as y'all know, so we don't get so it's not like as a big mess. But on that, more stuff.
Okay.
No,
Sorry,
that
we'll sleep
again.
over here.
Labour, you have a question. Can you turn your mic up? Is what they asked.
Sadly, I cannot. This is a crappy mic, and yeah, I apologise for the fact that people can't hear me, but I can't really solve it now.
Okay. And question to Jason. Jason is reowned for not have. Wait, what? Jason is reowned for not having
called
a mental
renowned.
breakdown and going crazy over the smallest comment. Why should we trust a man with a temperament of an abusive stepdad with a high office position?
First off, I'll have you know that I don't have any stepchildren. However, my real children will tell you that I'm a perfectly good abusive dad. And
Me and you the same.
I have a temper. If you can find me a Scottish person that doesn't, I'll be very fucking impressed. But it's as simple as why should you allow someone like myself to be prime minister? I mean, like, I get the association that everyone thinks, oh, he's a member of DAA. Can I just be clear, by the way, I've never actually been a member of DAA. The the Development Association, I stepped down as a dev so that I could run for this. I've got a strong history in politics throughout many groups. At the end of the day, I think it's been said many times. The reality of this election is just a 2-horse race. It's between the Liberal Democrats and the Conservative Party. Labour's just a bit of a thorn in our side. Clearly not ready to lead. And I honestly forgot the Co-op Party existed until I walked into this election and this debate tonight, and seeing that the Co-op actually have a leader. But yeah, it's as simple as this. It's as simple as, the Lib Dems got a strong cabinet. We've got people with experience. We are offering ways into politics to the public. And we come with a strong mandate. we're telling the public we want to see reform, we want to see change, and the reality is you're going to get a lot of pushback as soon as you come in and say that, especially with agency leadership. Nobody likes reform at the top because, I mean, the reality is that change starts at the top and they'll be the first ones to go. But I mean, if you want serious change within the United Kingdom, you want to see our services get better across the board, then I mean, the Lib Dems is where you should be voting.
Right, okay, another question for you, you've got quite a few. Do the Lib Dems support homophobia, as Adam M. Cross has been allowed as a parliamentary
Number one.
candidate, and it shows a picture of him getting warned for bypassing the F slur.
The what slur?
The one used against gay people, begins with F.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay. I mean, go look in the general chat of the United Kingdom. I mean, the insane amounts of. I mean, I don't support homophobia in the slightest. Let me just make that clear. And I mean, if you send me that, we will deal with that as a party, and we will have words. I mean, I had words with Adam earlier on today. I mean, we all know that Adam can be a bit of a troll. He can be serious when he needs to be
Why'd you
serious.
hire him if you know he's a
Because
troll?
let's say he can be serious when he needs to be serious, and I have sat down earlier today and made it very clear that he now represents the Lib Dems. He only became one of our parliamentary candidates today, and I made it very clear to him that as he represents us, then I mean any trolling and any pissing around will be dealt with, and he will be removed. I mean, like I say, it's very obvious. I mean, you see a lot of our junior ministers are people who are getting a second chance, and I think that's really important.
Are you sure you aren't just desperate for candidates? Because if you're hiring all these
de-
trolls, like there must be a point where you must think, Jesus, I have no other good options. Because like,
Definitely
it
not.
just,
I
it just
mean,
seems you're getting like 3 of these like things, and they're continuously coming on. Are you just desperate for candidates?
no, I mean definitely not. I mean we've got 3 members who would be associated as trolling, or no, sorry, 2 members who'd be associated as trolling, and 1 person who basically got attacked and brought down by the Labour Party because their leadership's, again, as I said earlier on, about as stable as a paedophile outside of a nursery. But I mean, like we move, and the reality of it is, like, no, we don't support homophobia, and it will be dealt with if the member of the public approaches me with this evidence so that we can take action.
Right. Okay. Now we know second chances with that. I'm guessing.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I think that's it for the public questions. Oh, we do have another one. If elected, what will you do to support the MPS and BAF and all of our other agencies? I think this is one to all of you. So I'll just start with Albert.
Could you repeat the question?
If elected, what will you do to support MPS, BAF, and all of our other agencies?
I'm so glad you're enjoying this sketch because I'm really motivated right now. On the topic of MPS, well, the first thing we'll do to support MPS is not shoot them up, like the former Defence Secretary candidate did. But that's beyond the point. You know, we're gonna work with the Defence Council. We're gonna work with the High Command of the British Armed Forces of every agency really across the board to ensure that their agencies are up to scratch and they're getting the necessary recruitment required. And our Home Secretary's paid close attention, our Defence Secretary's paid close attention as well, for all agencies, all parts of the British Armed Forces, Met Command, whatever, to make sure that recruitment is up to scratch, and we'll continue to do so across all key agencies.
Co-op.
I think our plan is just to simply improve and reform the EMS and
But
and
how
other
are you going
agencies.
to reform it? You've only said throughout this entire thing you're going to do it, but you've not told us how you're going to do it. So, could you
I'm
elaborate?
mostly soon. Well, I think we'll mostly I would say like perhaps bring new members into EMS with like better people, like not to like be offensive or anything of just replacing people who are already good enough, but mostly just to reform just to get like better people, perhaps to get like a new high command to simply improve the EMS. Since we have big plans for like the the Department of Justice, Armed Forces, and Parliament, but like for the the EMS, we don't have much plan except for like to improve high command and other stuff.
On to Labour Party. The Labour Party.
I myself am not too experienced with the defence stuff, and I'm sorry about that, but I think my defence secretary has more on it. But from what he wants is more active people, I know people are sick of hearing the word reform, but they want more active instructors and members so that we can just get things going in all those sectors.
And to the Liberal Democrat leader.
Yeah, I mean, shouting activity and activity and activity over and over doesn't solve anything, and it's a really shitty answer. So how do you get activity? I mean, like I say, it's as simple as this. We want to make big strides. I mean, especially within the Met. I mean, I was in London the other day. I was accused of 3 different crimes that hadn't been committed that I recorded the entire time. To the point that it actually required, there was a chief inspector of the Met who was making these accusations against me. A sergeant who was in the car with him had to actually speak out against them and tell him that he was lying and that he was making up charges. To me, it just goes to show the insane amount of corruption. So, I mean, like, we want to support our police force. We want to get rid of things like this. So that's why the Liberal Democrats are promising that, like, one of the first things we will be doing is, first off, removing the leadership of the Met and replacing it with new leadership, and secondly, it will be forming the College of Policing to ensure that, you know, these officers are getting proper training, they're getting proper discipline, and part of the reform of the Met would be, again, let's say, reopening CID is a big part of that to work for justice plans. And that will support the justice sector. But one of the big parts of that is also looking into, like, the Department of Professional Standards. I mean, it has got better over the last couple of weeks. However, I mean, we're all well aware of, I mean, the Department of Professional Standards sweeping things under the rug and attempting to basically, you know, back up their colleagues rather than properly investigate them and ensure that the conduct of the police is held up.
Go ahead.
What does sacking the commissioner actually achieve? Because I am in the HighCom group chat, and he is actually quite active when he talks to his HighCom, and HighCom's been quite effective. I can mention one, Fuzzy Pop 25. He's quite an effective, member of the HighCom, and I don't think he deserves to be sacked or brought into the whole inactivity question. Also, you mentioned reopening CID. That's not in your manifesto, so I don't know. Thank you for having a conservative idea. It's quite a compliment to my Home Secretary, but I'll take that. But I just don't understand what sacking the commissioner. I know we tried, but we learned from that, and we actually worked with him. And Met is actually becoming, Met is active. We've got more police officers than we did 2 months ago. So sacking the commissioner achieves nothing.
Having police officers and having competent police officers are 2 completely different things. I mean, we could have 300 police officers, but if only 2 of them can do their job correctly, know their laws, and know how to properly do their job, then your police force isn't effective. And that's what we're getting at. I mean, it's great that we do have the officers. It's great that we do have the activity. However, we fall severely short in conduct. And the reality is the public are sick of it. The public are sick of the false arrests. I mean, like, we went around, we spoke to the public. I mean, even, like I say, yesterday, I mean, I wasn't the only one accused of crimes. I mean, I was speaking to other members of the public whilst I was dealing with an exploiter in game. And, like, members of the public were getting arrested for simply just standing around and being accused of crimes that they didn't commit. This can't continue on within the UK. It has to be addressed. And in terms of the CID, I mean, we mentioned the CID at our rallies on several occasions.
Why not in the manifesto?
It wasn't in our manifesto. You're correct.
Why not?
However, it has been mentioned throughout our campaign. So I'm not really bothered about the fact that it wasn't.
But if you mention it throughout the campaign, why don't you just put it in your manifesto?
Because it doesn't have to
was
be
there
in our
no communication
manifesto.
there?
It's as
Well, it
simple as
does
that.
if you're promising it.
We've addressed it to the public, and
But
the
it
reality
needs to be in
is
your
when
manifesto
the
if you
public asks
want
a
to plan it.
question,
Is
when
it
the
just in
public
case you
asks a
don't? Is it just in case
question,
you don't
we
do
answer
it?
the public.
You don't have to say,
We
oh,
answer
well, it
the
wasn't a
public. We answer
manifesto.
the public, not the Conservative Party, and that's as simple as that. And when the public have asked us, and the public have expressed their concerns and their want for the CID to be back, then we've addressed that and we've accommodated it, and that's what Liberal Democrats is doing. We're accommodating for the public. We're taking what the public are saying and we're putting it into practice. It's not a case of empty promises and not fulfilling them. It's a case of making promises and making sure that we carry them through, because that's what the public actually
If you
want.
don't carry them through, then they can't
public
point out
aren't
that
asking
you
for-
promised it 'cause it's not in your manifesto.
The public haven't been massively asking for these parliament committees. What they've been asking for is, can we get some competent police officers? Can we have the CID back open? Can we have the judicial system fixed? But none of these are being addressed by the Conservative government.
How can
I
we
mean,
trust your promises? You're
Jason,
not
I'll
going to write them
debate.
down.
It's as simple as that. I mean, you can say, how can we trust your promises? But the reality is, how can they trust a Conservative government once again, who has made these promises on several occasions now? You've had 2 terms to
At
fix
least they're
it,
written
and yet
down.
these have not been fixed.
At least we
You've
put our hands on them and say
neglected
we weren't able
areas.
to achieve them this term. We're working to achieve them. We have the committees ready. We have
But
all
continue
the
to
preparations
say
ready.
you're working to
But
achieve them, hasn't done anything to
at
achieve
least
them. I
we've
mean,
written them down and we've taken
always
responsibility
say-
when they're not been achieved, and we know that we will achieve them next time. That
But
what you're doing here is
just
if you can't
continue
achieve
to
the
say
CID,
that
if you
you're
can't
gonna
achieve the
achieve
CID
your
and
work.
you don't have it written down, you can say it was never in our manifesto in the first place, and you can't accept that you didn't do that. But at least we have written down all our promises that we're going to do, and if we whether we achieve them or not is a completely different conversation. But as long as we've written them down so the public know what we're promising, that's the main thing.
I don't think it's a completely different conversation on whether or not you achieve them. I think when you put them in your manifesto, you make a promise to the public. You're telling the public, if you vote for us, this is what we're going to do. The reality is, we put down what we promised we're going to do, and on top
You're
of
not
that,
gonna reopen
we
the
are
CID,
we are
promising
speaking to
it,
the
they haven't
public,
written
and we
down.
are actively putting change in place because we want to see the public actually once again get back on side with the government so that they can see what they want. I mean, like, promising that you're going to do something and actually doing it are 2 different things. You could fill your manifesto with 100 promises, but if you don't fulfill those promises, then the public, I mean, you've lied to them, it's straight up. And you can continuously try and spin it away from them by saying, but we are working on it, we are working on it, we are working on it. But how long do you actually need to work on it before you can actually implement it? Because what we've seen...
Well, for the committees, well, it only takes us 1 or 2 weeks
what
for
we've
the
seen,
committees 'cause we haven't
we've
done.
seen consistently throughout the term is the Conservative Party promising that they're going to fix it, promising that they're looking into it, promising that they're going to do something about it in the end. But we haven't actually seen anything get fixed. We've got several sectors right now sitting inactive or just completely incompetent. The Conservative Party
I thought you
hasn't.
just said that we had a lot more police officers. You just contradicted yourself. You said we had a lot more
No, I
police
didn't.
officers.
I
Yes,
said we
you
have
did.
several.
You said it's all right having active police
Listen,
officers.
shut up and listen for a second. I said we have several sectors that are inactive and incompetent. So the police would fall under the incompetent section of that, not the inactive. When I'm talking inactive, I'm talking specifically about like the judicial sector that you have completely neglected. You have brought in a couple of new judges, but done nothing to actually make a difference in terms of
I'm
what
so
we
glad
need
you can make it active with your weird
Would
lawsuits, mate. I'm so
barristers.
glad you could do that.
Done nothing
Thank
to
you.
bring that forward. So we've seen it time and time again. We've seen promise after promise from the Conservatives, but we've seen nothing happen to actually make the change that the public have asked to see. So it's about time that we get rid of the Conservative government and we actually allow another party to come in and make the changes that the public want, and not just continues to promise to say that we're working on it.
Record growth of the NHS, by the way.
Right. Have you two stopped?
Yeah.
Alright, okay. I think we should rename this the Albert and Jason debate because
Well, that's only because we've got the 2 relevant parties to the campaign.
okay. Okay, Jason.
We're here too.
But you're not going to win realistically.
Anyway, so
You can bot the poll, but not the actual vote.
right. Anybody want to debate anything?
I've got it all out my system, really.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna quickly read out our poll. So we have a poll that started 11 minutes ago, with 73 votes on a stream with 26 viewers. 59%
big
of
up
people
Labour Party.
voted Labour. 25% voted Liberal Democrats, and 15% voted Conservative, and 3% voted Cooperative.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
someone
but-
definitely botted that from the Labour Party.
Yeah, big
So-
up Labour Party, botting the votes. Woo!
Labour, got anything to say about that? Just out of interest.
I'm gonna get to the bottom of this right after it. I don't condone this in any way, and I think it's pretty obvious, at least, that we know those are inaccurate. So, thank God we at least know.
Okay.
Yes, big up Labour Party.
So,
Can I quickly ask a question? With the Labour Party going as far to botting a BBC stream, how many alts have you got prepared to vote for you in the election?
I don't think I've made. Well, actually, political point.
Could just say no, we're not buying it. You don't have to go. Well,
Also,
I mean,
like, be register their party if they commit like false voting.
But you've said that as if it's me directly botting it. I don't want to bot this stream. There's no point in it because it's not going to affect the main general election.
I mean, you've spoken enough shit in political feed that you could be chatting shit here. And none of us know. But I just think it's interesting that a party would go as far to bot the to bot the debate. But it'll be interesting to see how many votes that the Labour Party need disqualified for having alts now in the election. I mean, this is clearly shows some intention behind the Labour Party.
Listen, if there was someone botting the general election, we'd know. And right now, I already have a good idea of who's botting this, and I'm going to talk to them afterwards. And I believe they're.
oh, who is it? Who is it?
Well, I'm not.
Name and shame.
I'm not sure it's a specific person, but I'm going to get to the bottom of it after this. But I deeply apologise for the botting, because, not a good thing to do. But not a good thing to do.
And Co-op, you've been very quiet throughout this debate. Is there a reason for that?
Well, cause I don't have much to say because like I understand that like half the time when we were like in Parliament we don't speak as much because like half the time we mostly agree on what either Labour side or like don't decide and just decide to like stay neutral.
Yeah, but
So
you're supposed to be voicing the opinions of your constituencies, your constituents. You're not. If you can't say much in a debate like this, you're really going to be able to say stuff like win a general election, bring up valid points in Parliament, win some of those nice, sweet party political points. Being silent doesn't win votes.
Can I say something about
yeah, I understand, but like we'll mostly try our best to be very opinionated to our party and to each question. So
Yeah, but you
we'll
haven't.
try our best.
Labour, sorry, for I think if you look at it as a family, I mean, you've got the uncle and the dad, the Lib Dems and the Conservative Party. They'll go head to head. They'll have the arguments. The Labour Party is very clearly the children of the group. They don't really have much clue what's going on, but they like to pipe up every now and again. And the Cooperative Party is like the cousin who's sitting there smoking weed in the corner and just a bit out of it. But I mean, let's look at this debate how it is. I mean, the public. I mean, I'm just going to address you head on that. You have two choices. Your choices really lie within the Conservative Party, and what we're offering is two strong parties with strong MPs that will debate, that will put your interests first, and at the end of the day, like what we've put forward in our manifestos are mandates that we know will get carried forward. I mean, I think the reality of it is the Cooperative Party have sat here quietly and hidden in the background. They're not going to be a party that leads this nation. The Labour Party have attempted to bot the stream. The Labour Party are very clearly led by a child, and the Labour Party have done nothing but basically just chat shit, not actually put anything forward. So I think it's straightforward. For me, I think you should be voting Liberal Democrats, especially with, well, we need to see reform, we need to see change. But this is very much a two-horse race, and I think we will see that tomorrow in the election.
Can I do my closing thing then if we're doing that?
Go ahead.
Well, the choice is quite simple here. You could either vote for a government that is proven, is stable, that we've governed for 2 months, we brought you an active NHS, we brought you an active police force, we're working on bringing an active BAF, achieved many great things in our time here. You know, there are some parties here that have dodgy MP candidates, you know, that have been accused of many things, that give leniencies and second chances to criminals. We're not that. We will actually give you a strong government for a 3rd term. And I promise you, we will work every day for you, the British public, to achieve what we want to achieve. And yeah,
Yeah.
That's it. I've lost my train of thought there. Sorry.
Great ending. Co-off. Your closing statement.
Well, compared to the fact that we don't talk a lot in like Parliament or this debate currently, I mostly like have nothing to say other than just would mostly try our best to mostly give the British people what they want and not like just have like get free votes and do whatever we want just to like improve our government and stuff.
Don't vote for them, please. Don't waste your vote.
What a great statement, Co-op. Great statement.
Look, I can't be heard half the time during this stream. I apologise for that. My voice can sometimes sound like I can't be taken seriously, like I'm a child. But Labour, we're gonna do this right. We've got our manifesto out. We've got our plans. We're filling the shadow cabinet. We hired 7 new professional MPs in 1 day. And while the parties around us during this debate said that we botted the stream as if it's the entire party in on it, and that it's run by children, and you know, I believe Labour is like as serious as I can be taken with this voice, which I understand, you know. I believe we can run the country.
I was going to say something there, but
a bit bad. I'm sorry about that, but
I think they'd survive the King's Speech, to be honest.
Possibly.
well, I think we survived because the Co-op and Lib Dems went short.
Jason, have you already said it, or do you want to?
What was that, sorry?
Have you done your closing statement, or was that just like a?
Oh no, that was just a general statement. My closing statement. Yeah, I mean, it's time to vote for change. It's time to stop empty promises. I mean, you could vote for another Conservative government, but you'll just be voting for more. We're working on it, not getting anything done. It's about time this country gets things done. It's about time we see change. Vote Liberal Democrats and get something done. I mean, if you want to vote for Labour, they'll help you out with some bots to your server and big you up. The Cooperative Party, they might pass you a joint, but at the end of the day, if you want change, you want things to go forward, you want things to actually, you know, get better within this UK, then your vote should be with the Liberal Democrats.
Okay. I'd just like to finish off by thanking the Director General of the BBC for making all of these amazing graphics you see on your screen, and the DCMS Secretary for giving us this rather nice studio.
He's a Conservative.
Shh. And I'd also like to thank myself for making the amazing GFX you're about to see on screen. Okay, good night.
I'd like to quickly
we're gonna do a BBC News at 10 o'clock in half an hour. If you'd like to stick around for that. Have a good night. We'll be back in half an hour. Okay.